before dying with zero revenue. But to me, it's been sad.
And then they started making a scandal on Twitter about being unhappy with the working conditions and all that.
That's why we just kind of shield ourselves on the beta world.
Yeah, it's just that what happens is that when you keep the community locked up for such a long period of time, it can cause a lot of frustration, because they could argue that we could have used that dot to stake it and generate staking rewards rather than lock it up for composable for 22 months.
Time, sir. The reason behind it is for us to do the token generation, I think it's the good in the bad. 100% no. I mean, I think as I mentioned, we really want to build two complementary parachains. We want people to use Pika, but also we think that if you have DOT and it's the first time using this, I mean, we don't want to block you. There are several challenges. I mean, there's some challenges that are cultural. You do IBC onto Picasso, and then you just send IBC to, let's say, Cosmos on Osmosis.
Hello and welcome to CryptosChain. My name is Claudio, and joining me today is Blas from Composable Finance. He's here to talk about Composable and explain to us what it's all about, what do they have to offer. Likely a lot of us on this channel, if you've been following this channel, you likely know what Composable is, and also Picasso because of the crowd loans. I've been covering a lot of that information since 2021. Even 2020 before the crowd loan started, but I started covering a lot of the crowd loan information back in 2021 in case you're new here. But Blas, thank you very much for taking the time to join. Blas is the CTO of Composable, so he's here to talk all about it. But first, Blas, I need to know, how did you get started into crypto? If you could please give us a bit of a background story about yourself, because it's always good to know how people started and how they even got to where they got,
Absolutely. So thank you for inviting me, first of all. Super happy to be here. And how I got into crypto, well, I come from Argentina. So actually Argentina from the beginning of Bitcoin had a lot of adoption of the technology because of macro issues of the country itself. So I think when the technology came of just truly decentralized coordination mechanism that would allow you to send money abroad, receive, and also get a currency that was not linked to the government was very appealing to us. I remember at the very early beginning just trying to understand what it was, and really breaking my head with the wall. It's reading what is this? I knew there was a lot of magic inside that white paper, but I really cannot get the full picture of it. And as the time went by, I started using it as a user, buying it, Bitcoin, and then Ethereum came, and that's when I really it really opened my mind to the full-blown amount of possibilities. Then I got to start working in crypto as on a startup on top of the Lightning Network first. Then I worked on the Ethereum space for Consensus, for CK rollups. Then I moved to Composable. So now, just pretty much now it's been a journey, but always super exciting space.
Absolutely. Wow, that's interesting. So you've been in very early. A lot of people like myself who have started in 2017 are considered to be early because we've been through one bear market already. Then we see in the next bull market, and then now another bear market. But I mean, you've been in it even earlier, so wow, that's you're an OG basically.
Yeah, in some way you could say so, but I think I've been on and off until I really got into it, perhaps around 2018 when I really I decided that this was going to be part of my life, fully.
So let's talk about Composable then. How did you get started with Composable, and what is Composable?
Okay, let me start with the second question first. So what is Composable? Composable is we're trying to build a technology that allow the user and protocols to basically to interplay with each other in a way that is just way easier and more amicable and friendly than what it is today. So that means that today, if you're in the same ecosystem and you want to call one contract palette from the same parachain, is pretty straightforward. But as soon as you start moving across other on the Polkadot ecosystem to another parachain, but also if you start looking a bit ahead and it's okay, how do I tap into another ecosystem? It gets way more complex because of UX, because of cryptography, and just because things are not designed to interplay fully. So Composable sort of ethos is to just allow the user and also each project to just not think of like the spaces where they are only, but like the whole universe. So that's where we are. That's what interoperability essentially tries to solve. So opening up the floodgates to everybody to communicate with each other. I see it a bit of like kind of globalization inside of crypto. And then how I got into Composable, initially because the Composable really wanted to build a bridge for Solana, which we haven't already. We're actually working on this right now, but I joined Composable for this, and then we realized it was just really difficult, much more difficult than what we thought, and we kind of parked it. But I already was on Composable, so I moved into other endeavors.
So basically, Composable is a way to bridge other networks together, right? It's the idea is to have this chain of interoperabilities between different blockchains. And so now I need to ask you, why did you decide to build on Polkadot?
Well, that's actually a really good question. So Polkadot to me, and I think to Composable, kind of embodies all the really important building blocks of a space in which you want to base yourself. Like, as I said, we are in the interoperability space, so we look at all the environments and the ecosystems, but we need to build on one, initially, and that is kind of our home, and we expand from there. And what we see of Polkadot is a combination of like several elements, like sort of a technology that allows us to build. Let's call it, as a technology. When I say that, I mean like Substrate, the whole palettes, the ecosystem and libraries that we can basically reuse. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. That'll be number one. Then like a big community that is like everywhere in the world. So there are people from different cultures with different needs that actually use this technology. So us as being part of this, we can sort of step into this. That's also super big for us. And I'd say lastly, last but not least, security. Like really, if you want to be sort of the hub of people moving things from one place to another one, people communicate from one place to another one, you need to provide these people with security. And sort of we're borrowing this from the network. So those are the three key elements probably.
Now let's talk about one of your biggest announcements, which is the Centauri bridge, connecting Composable and Picasso over to Cosmos, which ultimately
Correct.
means that it's connecting Polkadot to Cosmos. So let's talk about that, because I saw that it's been announced that it has launched its beta version. But what does that mean? Like, what are the limitations right now being in beta?
I mean, so the limitations are that we're rolling features slowly. For example, one of the kind of awaited features for this is what we call sort of a batch transaction, where you can start on a parachain on the on the Polkadot side, then just do one click inside our UI, and that would do like XCM transaction onto Composable's parachain. Then we will do IBC, which we connect, Picasso and Composable, the two parachains. You do IBC onto Picasso, and then you just send IBC to, let's say, Cosmos on Osmosis. So this is one of the things that we're still like sort of rolling. We're working on the UI for this. We have the implementation on the palette. So I think like that's basically, we're not yet there on the full UX. So that's why we just say this is beta. Please, you might have to reach out if there's some things that don't really make sense, because like we're not there on like how do we explain the user where like what are all the steps in real time. So we're really working on this, on explorers, on different ecosystems, but we're very aware that this is not fully there. So that's why we just like kind of shield ourselves on the beta world.
So do the actual transfers work? Like if I want to bridge an asset, so what can I actually bridge right now to Cosmos if I want to bridge something? What coins?
Well, you can bridge pretty much everything. So it depends on what you want to do, right? Like, so if you want to go to Osmosis, for instance, you can bridge today Pika into, which is the native asset from us. You can bridge it there. For example, for DOT, we're working with Osmosis in order to be able to do IBC DOT, because there is a Axelar version. So we're trying to to have our own bridged asset. That doesn't mean that you cannot bridge it. Like, you already can do it, but in certain cases you would not have the pools, you would not have the capability. So I'd say like just see like KSM, for example, you already can do that. But again, like in some cases, we're just lagging because there's already like an alternative. So we just need to see how we how we interplay with the existing solutions. But like right now, we're also opening. We already have opened the Cosmos Hub, which allows you to bring Atom onto Polkadot as well. So this is something that you can also, Atom users can start like flowing into the .sam ecosystem. So it's both ways. Soon, I don't know when, but at some point we will also allow to bridge NFTs. So that's also something that maybe is of interest to some users.
Okay, interesting. But you're saying that they don't have liquidity. So have you been discussing with Osmosis to do some bootstrapping so that you can get liquidity on those two pairs
100%.
or multiple pairs?
Again, the issue with DOT particularly is that there is already a solution for DOT, for Axelar. So you cannot have two competing assets which are the same. So yes, we don't have. We're working on this. I cannot fully commit on what is the solution because there are multiple players and a bit like conflicting interests. But definitely, like we're really pushing towards having the IBC version of DOT because it is a bit like you don't need to trust a multisig. That's the entire sort of power of our messages that we're building on like protocols that are there where trust is minimized or we call them trustless, right? And we think that's a more powerful solution. So we really want to start like replacing those pre-existing solutions into like something that we believe is superior. So yes.
Right now we just need to wait until you guys are going to launch the next version, and then maybe you're going to talk with some of those teams like Osmosis to maybe get those bootstraps. And what about bootstraps on the Picasso and Composable side? Are you planning to do those as well for Atom? Or what can happen with Atom, right? Like what can we do with Atom right now if we bridge it over to
100%. Like right now you have on Pablo, which is our DEX, you can trade Osmo, for instance. Very soon you will be able to trade Atom or any Cosmos asset, and again, like today you can even, if you want, you have DOT or any asset on the .sama, you can send it to Juno. That's up to the community as well. We're doing some of the work of the DeFi work, but even that, this is also we're trying to work with parachains themselves. Like, hey, you have this gate open today. You can just list your token anywhere. You can do anything. You can also list the other side on your parachain as well. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. We're doing that on our DEX one at a time, but the technology is already there.
Now I want to talk to you about Picasso because we want to get into some of the challenges. So I have been covering like a lot of crowdloan news, and updates, anything that had to do with that, for quite a long time. And so I know that Picasso, the team at Composable had delayed the Picasso coin launch. So the token generation event took a very long time. It was like after the Kusama lease expired. So you were the only ones that basically waited until the lease expired and then listed. So I need to ask you, like, what is the plan with Composable now? Are you going to do the same there? Because there have been some discussions in the community that you're not planning to do the token generation event until October of this year. Is this correct? And if so, what is the reason behind it?
The reason behind it is for us to do the token generation, we want to be there with a product. As you can see, like we listed Pika, and we've been pushing products. We've been pushing features where we have we build a bridge for like Polkadot with Kusama. We now build a bridge for Cosmos. We have our DEX, and now we do have a lot of plans for Composable that are actually like, we're not planning to export one-to-one our parachain on Kusama onto Polkadot. We want to have complementary technology. So we're working on having these products ready, or at least that's just the first version. And when we have this, we want to do the DGE. So it's not for us just to say, hey, look, we have the token tomorrow. We could do that tomorrow, but really we want to have something that basically people feel proud or start to think, okay, there's an identity behind this token, and that should be backed by the technology. And I agree that some things have taken really long, and we probably have making some steps in the wrong direction. But I think what the feeling right now is that we're able to just to move a bit faster, and hopefully as soon as we have something that lives up to the expectations of what we want on that Polkadot chain, we will just launch this token.
Okay, so when you are saying that you wanted to wait for the products to be launched, like you said with Picasso, for example, you wanted to wait for Pablo to launch before doing a token generation event, which makes sense now that you say that. And so what is the plan with Composable? Are you going to launch another DEX similar to Pablo there? Or what are you waiting to launch before that token generation event?
So among others, there's several elements, but I'd say one that we've been talking a lot and we don't have yet a production ready solution for this, but we're actually quite close, is XEVM. So as I said, we have number one is sending tokens and data from one ecosystem to another one, and the other one is how do you actually do more things? And this is what XEVM does. It's it's an interpreter that allows you to call from one chain to another one. You can call another contract, you can do more logic, and that extends to any other place. And this is something that for us, we envision our composable chain to be a bit the hub on that true interoperability layer. So for us, this is one of the things that is really important for us to have ready, at least on a first version, to say, well, now we're in a good place.
Now let's talk about the crowd loan. So would it have been possible for you to self-fund the composable parachain auction? So instead of doing a crowd loan, to basically self-bid with your own DOT, or maybe with the VC's DOT, and just to win that slot, and then to not have to get the community to crowd loan, and maybe do a public sale or something later down the road. Did you have enough DOT to do that at the time, or did you really rely on the community to get that crowd loan funding in order to secure a slot?
That's a good question. To be honest, I was not there when that happened. I think my feeling is that we might have been able to do it without the community, but I think this is a bit one of the strengths of the ecosystem, is that kind of it puts the incentives for parties to be aligned. It's not only about getting the funds for sort of securing an asset. It's also saying, hey, look, I'll pitch you my idea. This is what we're gonna do. Do you guys back us up? Yes, no, and if they do, then you have people who are actually sort of invested on your journey. So I think there's value there, and that's probably the reason for which Composable at that time chose to go in that direction, because even at that time, capital was cheaper than today, right? So that's why I think that there was probably that value added of building a community.
Okay, yeah, it's just that what happens is that when you keep the community locked up for such a long period of time, it can cause a lot of frustration, because they could argue that we could have used that DOT to stake it and generate staking rewards rather than lock it up for Composable for 22 months. Get nothing for 22 months, and then maybe we'll get something, or we don't know if we'll get something, because with bear markets many things can happen, but I can see that you guys are working hard, which is good, right? You have delivered now, so on that promise, to get the first version of the bridge. So congratulations, well done on that.
I agree, and I say if probably this is speed has been one of the sort of Achilles heels for us, and this is where we're actually trying to put the biggest all our effort is in basically deploying things as fast as we can. So we appreciate the effort that people have put there, and we're trying to repay that.
Now I need to ask you about some of the challenges that you encountered along the way, be it on Picasso or on Composable, when you are doing this development and when you are working on the bridge between Cosmos and Polkadot.
There are several challenges. I mean, there's some challenges that are cultural, on the one side, it's Cosmos people are why do we need these people from Polkadot? They're saying, Polkadot would say why do we need Cosmos? We're better than them. The other ones would think you're better than the other ones. But I think as time moves by and people start seeing, you're not so different from each other, and you start seeing, hey, these guys have this, we don't have this, and actually you can start seeing both projects starting getting something from each other, right? So I think that's a bit of something that we might have something to do, but I think it's a bit of natural course of things. So there's a bit of a cultural element of just bringing two people together that they were not actually together before. We're part of this journey. We're not the only ones, but yes, this is one thing I'd say. The second one is like the technology. Is like when we started the technology to bind this to ecosystem was not there, and there was nobody, you know, that you could just come and say, hey, how do we do this? So we need to like start building the relationships with the people that could help us, and also start like sort of experimenting and working with it. And it's been like, you know, it's been challenging, really challenging. But I'd say I think those two elements, and probably like now with a bear market, there is a bit of a need to say, okay, how do we expand our communities? How do we expand our products to some other ecosystem? So it comes a bit more naturally right now. But at that time, you know, when things were booming, that was not obvious.
I do have another question in relation to that bridge between Cosmos and Polkadot. So right now with the Centauri bridge, you can bridge Pika over to Cosmos, which means it's basically a Kusama to Cosmos bridge. But do you need to pay, and I'm sorry I have to ask you this because I haven't personally tested the bridge yet, do you need to pay like transaction fees in Pika in order to bridge over to Cosmos, or how do you pay for the fees?
No, actually, the Picasso network allows you to pay in different currencies. So you can pay in DOT, for example. We have this pilot that's called Bring Your Own Gas. So we have a few, you know, KSM, DOT, USDT, and Pika are currently the four assets that, so to speak, you know, digital assets that we use for allowing people to pay for transactions. So if you bring anything from you know, from Polkadot, you can always pay in DOT, and you can just send it to Cosmos.
So you're offering different variations, which means flexibility for the user.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, we want people to use Pika, but also we think that, you know, if you have DOT and it's the first time using this, I mean, we don't want to block you.
Now let's talk about moving on from the challenges over to the marketing situation. And what is your plan to market Composable and Picasso to the wider audience so that retail users might be interested to use this product? You know, that you've got both the Pablo DEX and also Centauri as the bridge, and maybe the future products that you may want to launch.
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. So particularly with Pablo, what we're seeing right now is that we really want to leverage interoperability. And what this mean is that, for example, we want to start doing shadow pools with Osmosis, so that like many of the things that you have on Osmosis, we're going to have them listed on Pablo. So that means that we're actually piggybacking on Osmosis liquidity, but you can trade directly from Pablo. So you don't need to know, you know, how Cosmos works. You don't need to have a wallet on Cosmos, anything. You can just be on Pablo, you can trade, and we just do everything on Osmosis and you get the asset back. So this is something that we think there's a bit of a value added of how we work and how we're connected. I mean, anybody could do it, right? But we have kind of all the tools and we just wire them up together. So this is something that we think that like, you know, very soon in Pablo, you'll be able to have access to like a big suite of assets and with large liquidity. That's going to be quite, I think, compelling. And as Picasso in general, so what we really want to start doing is we're gonna have Picasso as kind of a hub of DeFi from the composable perspective, so that, you know, you have most of the primitives that you want as a DEX. You can have a lending market, you can have a vault. We have some of these products, you know, kind of on very soon, particularly the vaults. Then, you know, lending market hopefully fast enough, but we also already have on Picasso deployed our Cosmos Watson VM. So that means that any, you know, Cosmos project that is deployed on Juno, for example, that works in Cosmos Watson, they can just deploy it one-on-one on Picasso. So we think that that's a way to hone the, you know, the DeFi ecosystem inside Kusama. So you know, as time goes by, we have grants for this. We hope that we can just build this ecosystem inside Picasso, leveraging all the connections with any other chain that we have.
But I want to know more about the promotion, like from a marketing aspect. Like, are you in collaboration with any other content creators to promote it, with any media sources like Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, such as those? Like, if so, like which ones, and how do you plan to market to the wider audience?
Yes, so we do have partnerships with PR agencies, you know, where they get us ad hoc, something that particularly they do have, you know, contacts with, you know, different both media venues, but also people in crypto that they have some some reach. So depending on the message, depending on what we're doing, we have that's something that our marketing team does kind of often, like things like CoinDesk, or different AMMs that sometimes we organize, but also like being now part of different ecosystems, we also have sort of good relationship with the Interchain Foundation. So we've also been retweeted like very very few times from them with like a big reach. Like that's also with LAYR, that we're building a bridge there, so that also has had a huge impact on like moving across different borders. As I mentioned today, like we're actually working on Solana as well. So that's a bit of our organic strategy to say how do we get to new public. I think like within the .sama ecosystem, we are part of this ecosystem, and we think that there's a lot of people who actually knows us. So I think the challenge is more how do we get to new people, and this is what we're trying to sort of really work hard on.
I'm happy to hear you have a plan to bring people from other communities as well to hear about Composable and Picasso, hopefully grow it. And so now I need to ask you, once you are going to launch all the products for Composable, the ones that you need to launch, do you still see a use case for Picasso, or do you think that can be eventually decommissioned and just focus everything on Composable?
100% no. I mean, I think as I mentioned, like we really want to build like two complementary parachains. We don't see like Kusama as the testing network for promoting it to our Polkadot parachain. We see two networks with value and two communities, and we just want to sort of leverage this. We have a split for one and the other one. One is going to be more DeFi centric. The other one is going to be more infrastructure centric. And the revenue and the business model and everything is going to be derived from different sources and different sort of business plans. So in some way, you can have two different target audiences, two different product suites, and two different revenue streams as well.
Now I need to ask you this question because it is the bear market. So I'm asking everyone the same question, and we need to know, especially the retail users. Also myself, I'm also curious. In terms of financial sustainability for Composable, I don't need to know amounts, but I do need to know that in terms of time frame, how long can you last in order to deliver those roadmap milestones that you have promised? How many months, how many years do you have?
So that depends on our capacity to generate revenue. So I'd say let's assume we generate zero revenue, right? So that's if you wanted to know. So we want to be here for a couple of years before dying with zero revenue. But like right now, we're thinking that with the bridges that we're launching and the products that we're actually putting on the market, we can start getting real revenue, and then the runway extends.
Okay, that sounds good. So you do have a couple of years right now, assuming no revenue.
Yes, this is all our financial planning. Sort of goes into that direction. We really want to have substantial amount of time, especially today. Also, this is a bit of sort of the silver lining of the bear market is that certain things become cheaper. So this is also like I think it's the good in the bad.
Now I need to ask you about the case that happened quite a while ago, a few months ago, I would say. Now I don't have the messages in front of me, unfortunately. I was trying to look for them and I couldn't find them. With regards to one of the ex-employees from Composable, I know that they left and then they started making a scandal on Twitter about being unhappy with the working conditions and all that at Composable. Like, are you able to maybe share a bit about that, just for to basically reduce the FUD, because there was a lot of FUD regarding that, right? So I know that there were some suspicions in the past at Composable, given that Brainjar also made some mistakes in the past, in his professional career. But now with this other ex-employee leaving and causing, chaos on, expect chaos, as they say on Kusama on Twitter. Like, what can you tell us about that? If you could talk a bit about it, please.
I mean, what I can tell you is that we had a bunch of people who left, and they just opened up a new shop, building something similar to what we're doing. So I don't know their motivations at that time, but what I know is that they sort of copy pasted some of the things that we were working on, and none of the allegations that were said at that time were actually proven. Any of our existing the people who invested on Composable had actually left or asked for anything. So what I know is that none of this has actually been proven, and what I also know is that a large chunk of these people just left to compete with us. So I don't know if this explains everything, but to me it's been sad.
Okay, yeah. And unfortunately, these things do happen. So, we can't really do much about it, right? Like what's coming up with Composable or Picasso that you would like to share, that you're able to share, that you're excited about, that we should look forward to, basically?
I think there are two things, among others, but one is the wallet. Like we really want to build like a truly nice experience for the user to go from something that is appealing onto the entire ecosystem, just like everywhere. So you have your assets on one place, be that on Dotsama, and you can interplay with anything without really having to deal with the complexity from the comfort of your wallet. This is something we're actually working on. So like a truly like cross-chain wallet with everything embedded into. So that's one thing. Sort of uses Composable's infrastructure behind the back. That's the one thing. And I'd say that the second thing to me is I think a bit the interplay personally with Solana. I think having those two ecosystems as Polkadot and Solana, I think the combination is pretty exciting. There's a lot of innovation happening in Solana. There's no liquidity, and I think a bit like if you just blend those ecosystems together, something pretty exciting will happen. So to me, when I just look at Composable short term and I see those two things combined with things like XCVM, that we can start like blending protocols where they can, as I said, just you can be on one chain and have like the entire offering from another one and vice versa, and like composing things together. I just see something kind of exciting about to happen.
Well, Solana is a bit questionable, unfortunately, because they did have those problems with the blocks being produced, so let's hope things are
100%. But like if you look at actually the last couple of months, they have 100% uptime, and the technology is pretty interesting. So in that way, like as I see, there's a bit of a complement. I'm not saying people should move there, but just see when we're bridging there, if they're actually feeling courageous to explore a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about multi-chain at the end of the day. You want to build those bridges with the different ecosystems. So absolutely amazing. That's great to hear. Now, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it, Blas. I have one final question for you before we end this, and that is, what is one thing in life that you truly desire?
Time, sir. I desire time. I think time is the most precious thing. So the more, the merrier.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time, Blas, to talk to us and explain more about Composable, debunk a lot of the FUD that has been going around. So thank you very much. And if you want to check out Composable, I am going to be posting links in the description of this video and also in the pinned comment. You can also follow them on Twitter because they post a lot of their updates on there. So you can stay up to date on Twitter, basically. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.